Hello, thank you so much for joining me in the Louie file, or should I say us, I guess. Joining us in the Louie file. We ended our last video talking about Cain and Abel in Genesis 4. This is all under the heading, and we're going to try and keep it under this framework, but it started out with what is man? I think this is our third, or not even sure now.
Yeah.
I think it's our third video.
Third or fourth.
Yeah.
Something.
But we're continuing with the main theme of what is man, and we're going to just kind of walk through this verse by verse. However we get led, I've ran across some scripture. We may or may not use all of these, but just for a quick review here, in Genesis 4, of course,
with Cain and Abel.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we already dealt with the fall and how Adam is separated from God, and then we see in Genesis 4 Cain and Abel, their offspring, and how Abel brought the blood of a lamb is an offering. Cain brought something he grew out of the ground. God confronted Cain and told him sin was crouching at the door, desiring to have him, but he must master it. Well, it didn't work out so well. Cain went and talked to Abel, ended up killing his brother. And he eventually, if you keep reading the story, God ostracized him, pushed him out, and he became a wanderer. So it didn't turn out well for Cain. But the main thing is that sin was crouching and desiring to have him. The main thing for me was that. So it made me think that sin is like a being, a person. It's not just some thing. So then we looked in 1 John 4, where John expounds on this, and he's 1 John 4, 10, 11 and 12, I guess. John brings up Cain and Abel, and he uses them as an illustration. 1 John 4, 10 through 12, he says, "By this, the children of God and the children of the devil are obvious. Anyone who does not practice righteousness is not of God, nor the one who does not love his brother. For this is the message which we've heard from the beginning, that we should love one another, not as Cain, who was of the evil one and slew his brother. And for what reason did he slay him? Because his deeds were evil and his brothers were righteous." So there you go. So there's a built-in jealousy between Cain and Abel, because Cain, although God warned him, Cain let sin have him. So Cain became, it says here, was of the evil one. I think what it's saying is he was operating from the evil one. And in 1 John 3, 8, it said, "The Son of God appeared for this purpose, to destroy the works of the devil." So what is man? Man was created to be God's temple. But, so man, a human body, is a house. Well, Adam chose to rebel, which opened him and his offspring up to another tenant.
Yeah. He opened the door.
Yeah.
To allow and invited the tenant in.
Yeah. I always thought that the devil was like a squatter.
Yeah. There you go.
And he needs, and he needs to be run out.
Yeah.
You don't have any rights to live here.
Exactly.
Right? I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
So that's what Jesus came to do. He came to destroy the works of the devil. He came to reclaim his house.
So, man, I can even see, you've painted a perfect picture there. Because I can really see the devil walking in to your house and going, "Okay, sign here, 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 and here."
Yeah.
And then you say, "Yeah." And then he's like,
it.
yeah, he's like, "I got you." And then you're like, "Hold up, I didn't ask for all this. Wait a minute." And then you accepting Christ, and then Christ is like, "No, he doesn't receive his eviction notice."
Yeah.
You
got to look at the small print.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're meant to be my imager.
Yeah, exactly.
So he came to claim us back. Yeah.
That's good. That small print is something there. That's the most important part in any document. Yeah,
the rightful ownership. It's so what is man? So we originally were, according to Genesis 1:26 and 27, we were meant to be God's imager, the one that expressed or displayed who God was in the earth. In the fall, just like the story with Cain, Satan or sin kind of crept in, moved in, but it moved in because Cain chose to, like you say, open the door. So this got me to thinking about, well, without going to all the verses, but just to put this out there, the Apostle Paul said, don't you know your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who dwells or lives in you? And he also said that we have a treasure in an earthen vessel. So the excellency of the power will be not of us, but from God. And then Jesus said, we're a branch and he's the vine. So if you look at this, what is man? He's a temple, he's a vessel, he's a branch. So all of these things are, a temple is a house for God.
Yeah.
A vessel is a container. And a branch is an expresser of the vine. So we're not the source of our own life or our own things. We're always joined to another. So Cain was confronted with an opposite, just like the two trees.
Just like Adam.
Yeah.
And joined himself to the opposite, and and became that. It's almost like I was listening to a friend of mine, and he was doing some piping work, and long story short, the piping connection, when it was done beforehand, before they got to it, it was connected wrongly. So that's what we see here. He allowed himself to connect to the wrong source, and that source is bringing all this pollution in. And now that it's been severed, and you're able to connect into the true source, and getting all the proper nutrients, all the cleanness, all the flowing of living water going through.
There you go. And so it wasn't just a section of the pipe.
Exactly.
It all had to be taken out.
All of it.
And redone.
Exactly. That's good.
Because otherwise you just put a new piece of pipe on the same old source.
Exactly.
So self-improvement
is
really a dead end.
It's dead end.
Because you have to have a new source.
And even putting it on putting that new pipe on, it's only going to last for a season because all that crud and everything is going to deteriorate. So that's the reason why the motivational stuff and all the stuff that's out there, it only lasts for a season, and then you're like, why am I back in the same stuff? Well, you're not hooked up to the right source.
Yeah. Wow. That reminds me of Jesus talking about the soils and how the one sprung up real fast. It had no depth.
No depth.
There's nothing really there.
Right.
So it looked good for a minute.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then when the storm comes, it
uproots real easy, or the sun bakes it. So I was thinking about Cain's problem and how sin was presenting itself there. God told him, sin desires to have you, but you must master it. And that what came to me is Luke. If you want to look in Luke 22. I thought this might have been in a couple of the Gospels, but I think it might just be Luke. Luke 22. I don't know. I got one verse marked here, but it may be a couple we need to look at. But Luke 22:31, I think it is.
Yeah, that's what you got.
31.
And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brother.
There you go. Oh my gosh. So I remember one translation actually says that, it is this one. I have a New American Standard, and the way this is worded, it says, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan has demanded permission to sift you. Wow. So it looks like, this ties in with Job. The first chapter of Job, Satan shows up during the heavenly council meeting, and God says, well, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm just hanging out, running around,
going here
to and fro.
And
he goes, well, have you considered my servant Job? So God, in the story, really pointed out Job to Satan. So you have Cain being confronted by sin, and he's got to master it. You have Peter, Jesus telling Simon Peter, Satan is going to sift you. And you have Job, God's telling Satan,
pointing him out. Have you considered my servant?
So God's plan is that we're confronted by Satan or sin or the adversary. And Jesus is telling Peter here, he says, Satan is wanting, desiring, demanding, however you want to say that, to sift you. So he's going to put you through a shake-up. Like you got, I think of sifting as flour.
You're right, exactly, yeah.
You're going to...
Yeah, you shake, and it takes out all the impurities and stuff, yeah.
It's like...
And it's something violent that happens.
Yeah, it's got to be a roughing up,
yeah.
A shake-up. And so life is full of shake-ups, and they're meant to happen.
That's good.
In 2 Corinthians 4, the Apostle Paul said these light and momentary afflictions are working for us an eternal weight of glory. So when you start to see all of life as being for us and for a good purpose, we start to take them differently. Whatever setbacks, whatever pains, whatever frustrations, if we could just start to see through them instead of at them.
And thinking of every situation like what we saw in Job and stuff. Once he went through that sifting, the other side of that, it was more prosperous, and all that. He received even more than what he once had, and then he would have never even had an opportunity of that if he hadn't went through that.
Yeah.
And we're going through in this season of what's going on around us here in 2020. All the craziness that's going on.
Shifting.
Yeah, shifting and
sifting.
Yeah, sifting. Yeah, I was going to say it because, but some people and a lot of us are being like, man, I want to do this. I want to do, instead of looking through this. And I've even shared it before with other people that on the other side of this, what ministries are going to come out of this. How many people have been going to social media and doing what you're doing and what you've been doing that now they may have had that as an idea for a long time, but now they're walking in that ministry and stuff now. But if it wasn't for this sifting going on, if it wasn't for this to take place, people wouldn't have never done those things. They would have still been sitting on idle.
Being forced kind of,
Right.
So Jesus tells Peter that Satan is desiring to do this, and in verse 32, Luke 22:32, he says, "But I have prayed for you." He doesn't say, "I will pray for you." He says, "I have prayed for you," that you get out of it, that you don't have to feel the pain and anger. No,
that your faith, he just says that your faith faileth not.
Yeah, so he's like, this always got me because I remember. In churches, I say churches, in my experience, let's put it that way, I'm not trying to point fingers or pick on anyone in particular, because we've all been there, I think. You have some horrific thing happen in your life, and you find an elder or someone that you look up to in the faith, and you say, "Will you pray with me?" And what you're really saying is, "Will you pray that God gets me out of this?" That's what we want. And I mean, it's not wrong to want that.
Right.
I mean, yes, I want out of this. I don't want to be in debt or sick or have this problem with my children or my wife. I need this new job. I need a new job. All these things are okay to want. But we get this idea that we're going to get this. We're going to get Jeff, man. He's connected to God, so he's going to pray, and God's going to listen to him, and this pain and this frustration is going to go away.
Right.
And then me and Jeff go up there to the altar, and Jeff says, "Lord, I'm just praying that Louie's faith holds up." I mean, that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah. What are you doing? You're supposed to have the connection. What do you mean this?
Is it right? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like all of a sudden Jeff is like, he's saying Louie's got to go through this, and he understands this. But I'm like, that's not what I wanted you to pray.
Yeah. You're like, hold up, time out. No,
wait a second.
I wanted you to get me out of this.
Right.
You're praying that my faith doesn't fail. What?
And that's what he's saying to Peter. He's saying, look, the sifting's coming, baby, and I'm not getting you out of it.
Right, yeah.
I'm not getting you out of it.
It's not coming. I just pray that your faith holds up.
Yeah, because you're going through it, and it's good for you.
And it even says, strengthen thy brethren.
Yeah, because it's not about you, Peter, but it's about you getting through this, so now you have what it takes to strengthen others.
Yes.
Because they're going to go through it, and they're going to need you to pray what Jeff just prayed. And stop praying that God just blesses you and puts you in a bubble and keeps you from all harm and suffering. Because without the suffering, there can be no glory. Without the trial and the test, there can be no passing of the test. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So we
They
just
say without a test, you don't have a testimony.
there you go.
Yeah.
You just have the monies.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a testimony, but they don't want the test.
That's right.
They're left with just the monies. That's what I heard someone say.
Mm.
So, I think, what is it? How does yours, read verse 32 again. It says,
but I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not, and when thou art converted.
There you go, converted.
Yeah.
See, mine says, and once you have turned again.
Mm.
So, but converted,
Mm-hmm.
or repented.
Mm.
I think maybe the word repented might be used in some translations, but anyway, the point being is that once your mind is changed,
there's a turnaround.
Yeah, once you've turned around, once you've repented, once the change has happened inside of you.
Well, you're an engine guy, or
not really.
Well, you work with parts a lot and stuff, though. Yeah. Converter, it turns things around.
Yeah, it turns it into something else. Yeah. And so conversion, repentance, transforming, turned around. So Jesus is saying, look, Satan's coming to sift you, but once your faith is going to hold up and you will be transformed. And I think part of this is just a mindset of seeing differently, like what we're saying. Mm-hmm. Once we start to see through and we see that Satan is part of the plan, he thinks he's thwarting the plan, but God is saying, no, you're still working for me.
Yeah.
But you're so egotistical, so prideful, you can't see it.
Right. You
don't understand.
That's his main thing. He's so jacked up anyway.
Self-blinded.
He's just like, oh, I got this. I'm gonna tempt him. I'm gonna do this. But no, you're just a tool.
Yeah. and afterwards, he's like, ugh.
Yeah.
And God's like, see, who's God?
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think that's the point. So Peter gets a change of mind. And once his mind is transformed, then he can strengthen others. That's why people that come through addiction go back and work with addicts.
Yes.
People that have had divorces help people that have been through divorce. That's part of the way.
And I think those that have been through those, whatever they've been through, and whatever God leads them to go those people. It seems like they have the right conversation for those individuals. Like this is what I've heard. I've heard that like with people when they're dealing with addicts, for instance, they know when that addict is talking out the side of their mouth and stuff and all that, and they can call them on it versus somebody who hasn't been through that, and they're like trying to figure them out or
and
whatever.
Being manipulated. Yeah.
So I know you've been to the jails, and I've had opportunity to do that myself, and I've been into those like prisons. Yeah. And one of the mind-boggling things or the mind change that gives you that reality is when that door shuts behind you, and I know you probably see that too. But it's funny though, when you go into those prisons, one of the first things they're always on you to do is they're trying to get something from you. They're trying to get you to do something for them on the outside. Yeah. And so it's just it's very interesting though how that you have once you've been through stuff like that God can be able to put you because you're able to see on the other side. Yeah.
And where it's leading. Where it's going. And so Jesus is so then if you kept going, the next couple verses, Peter's like, but I'm going to go with you to prison and to death. He brought prison up there. Peter's like, no, I'm going to fight this. I'm ready to go. Because we're talking about the guy that later on pulls a sword out and is ready to fight.
Exactly.
Peter's like, I'll walk on water. He's ready to fight. He's ready to go. But it's all a self-will and an independent spirit. So Jesus is saying, you got to be broke of that, buddy.
Right.
And we all have to be broke of that.
Well, and I can imagine him saying this in verse 34 so calmly and stuff, being like, and he said, I tell thee, Peter, the cock shall not crow this day before thou shalt thrice deny thou and knowest me. Thou knowest me, and you could just see him just saying that so calmly, and Peter like,
what? Man, I'm ready to fight.
I got you.
And Jesus is like, Peter, well,
Yeah.
you'll learn.
Yeah.
I'm still praying for you.
Yeah.
Peter.
I see. You'll see.
So in Genesis 4, sin was crouching, desiring to have Cain.
Mm-hmm.
Here we have Satan desiring to sift Peter.
Yeah.
See, so there's a pattern here.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's look back in Job. Now this still does fit under the what is man thing, because man was created to be God's imager, but the devil, Satan, wants to be us to be his imager.
Mm-hmm.
So he's constantly on the lookout for an opening to get into our life and really to betray God's character. I think it's really about lying to us, getting us to see God improperly, and if we see God improperly, then his motives are now not right, and then all of a sudden, it's like some little dude in your ear going, "Well, your wife really doesn't love you. She's doing this," and he's just in your head.
Yeah.
So God's character is really what's on the line in Job, even too. Toward the end of Job, Job has got friends, so-called friends, that are trying to help him. And Job starts questioning what God's character is.
Well, even his bride was trying to.
And we're going to touch on that. But the whole point, it ends with God saying, "Who is entering my counsel without knowledge?" He's like, "Who do you think you are? You don't know who I am." And that's what Job comes to know, though. He comes to know who God really is through all the heat, and it's amazing. But in Job 1. Verse 6, 7, 8. I don't know if we want to read all these verses, but there's a meeting. Yeah. And Satan shows up, and God asks him, "Well, where do you come from? What are you doing?"
He says here, going
verse 7,
and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down it. And the Lord says, "Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God, and he cheweth evil."
Turns away from evil, yeah. So God is saying that my translation says that he's blameless and upright. So God is pointing out Job. Well, this doesn't mean he never made mistakes or did anything wrong.
No, there was a perfection about him, though.
But yeah, he feared God and he turned away from evil. So then Satan in verse 9. He says, Satan answered the Lord, "Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not made a hedge about him?"
It's almost like he's challenging him, though, in that meeting. He's like,
"Let's see if Job will serve you when times get hard."
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what ends up happening. You bless the works of his hands; his possessions have increased. Verse 11, "But put forth your hand now and touch all that he has. He'll surely curse you to your face." That right there is key. That phrase, "He will curse you to your face." Verse 12, "Then the Lord said to Satan, Behold, all that he has is in your power, and do not put forth your hand on him." So Satan departed from the presence of the Lord. Then all hell breaks loose in Job's life. Marauders come in, his cattle is killed, his barns are burned, his children are killed, and it's left with him and his wife. And his wife is not necessarily the greatest gift for him at this point. So everything falls apart in Job's life, but he never breaks from it.
No, never.
Job 1, 20 and 20. You can read 20 through 22, the last 3 verses of the first chapter.
Then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshipped.
Oh my gosh! So everything gets broken, stolen, and burned up and dies, and his first response is worship.
Worship. Wow.
That's pretty powerful.
That is very powerful, because what we've known for so long from maybe even in our own lives, when stuff falls down, we start just going down that road. He did the total opposite and starts worshiping God. And said, "Naked I came out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. And the Lord gave, and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord."
Verse 22.
"And all this Job sinned not, nor chargeth God foolishly." He didn't.
So it says he didn't sin, and he didn't blame God, is the way mine's worded.
Wow.
So all this chaos broke loose, and he did not rant and rave and pitch a fit. Rather, he worshiped and he said, look, I came into this world with nothing. God's blessed me with all this great stuff, but he can take it away if he wants to.
And what did the Satan say beforehand? That he's going to curse thee to thy face.
And he did, but he didn't.
He didn't. He didn't.
I mean, he responded exactly how God knew he would respond. So then there's another meeting in chapter 2. We're convening another meeting, and then the Lord says to Satan, well, what's up now? He goes, I've been roaming around. And the Lord says, well, have you considered Job? And he's like, there's no one like him.
Again.
And he still holds fast his integrity, although you incited me against him to ruin him without cause. Job 2:4, Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin. Yes, all that a man has he will give for his life. So God now gives him more access, and so he moves into Job's body, and he gets boils and trouble, sickness in his body, but he tells him not to kill him. So it's getting harder and harder and worse on Job. So Job 2:6, the Lord said to Satan, behold, he's in your power, only spare his life. So Satan goes out to go and harass Job. He gives him boils, all kinds of trouble, to where Job is taking a pot and scraping himself. Now, read verse 9 and 10.
Wow. Then said his wife unto him, doest thou still refrain from thy integrity? Curse God and die. But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God? And shall we not receive evil?
Oh my.
Wow. In all this did not Job sin with his lips. He still. Wow.
So what do we see here? We see in the first chapter, in the first chapter or 2, Satan is saying, remove what he's got and he'll curse you. Now we see Job's wife, which we could say is not really the wife saying this. Because it's repeating verse for verse, or
what
word for word.
Yeah.
So this is really the wrong spirit operating in Job's wife.
Yeah. Spirit of error. Operating in.
See that? So it's a satanic mind saying, just curse God and die. Put yourself out of your misery.
And I see the picture of the serpent when the Satan was using the serpent as a tool and stuff. And in the same moment, the same mirror image, the serpent is Satan is using
operating
her.
through
Through her. That spirit of error, as you put it, is operating through her, and she's just
and she doesn't even know it.
Doesn't even.
And so there's another instance, I don't know where this verse is at right now, but there's a place where Jesus is telling the disciples that he's going to go through this hardship. He's going to be lied about, beaten, mistreated, and crucified. And Peter goes, oh no, Lord, this will not happen to you. And Jesus, it says, turned and said, get behind me, Satan. So he's talking to Peter, but he's talking to Satan.
Yeah.
Because Satan's really the voice coming through Peter.
Yeah. Talking to the spirit of error.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So this fits in with what Paul says in Ephesians 6, where he says, we're not wrestling against flesh and blood, but against powers, principalities, spiritual wickedness in high places.
But how many times have you I'm still getting this vivid picture of his wife speaking this from the spirit of error, and how that was probably so out of character for her. With him,
maybe.
Maybe.
We don't really know for sure.
Yeah, we don't know for sure, but so many times we listen to, we can maybe heard a message on that, and instead of looking at it from this standpoint as a spirit of error, I wanna have compassion on her and think that that she doesn't normally talk like that, because there's things that our close ones may say, and you're like,
whoa,
that's out of character. In the midst of you going through,
Yeah. Well, and that also goes back, and this is not trying to pit man against woman or male and female, but you look at Adam and Eve, you hearkened to the voice of your wife. Abraham, you listened to Sarah.
Yeah.
Job didn't listen to his wife.
Exactly. Come on now.
Right. I mean, there's another illustration here, and it's not about the female, but it's about those closest to you being deceived.
Right.
And how we have to have our ears tuned
right
to the truth.
Yeah.
Or we'll fall right into it.
Exactly.
Adam went right for it. Abraham went right for it.
And thank God for this picture of an individual not going for it.
And we get to see behind the curtain.
Yeah, what's taking place.
We know who's really operating.
Exactly.
If this started in chapter 2 with Job and his wife, and we didn't know that Satan was...
Yeah, then we'd be like,
man, get rid of her, man.
Yeah, exactly.
We wouldn't see that it was really someone else operating in her.
That's good.
But Job says something astounding. To me, this is one of the greatest, deepest, most amazing revelations that anyone, I can tell you, that you could ever get. It says in verse 9 and 10, his wife says, do you so hold fast your integrity, curse God and die. So she's saying, just curse God, just get out of it, just let him take you out. But he says, you speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Now look at Job's response. Shall we indeed accept, now I like the way the King James is worded. Shall we indeed accept good from God and not evil? Now see, mine uses the word adversity. I think the good and evil is better because it harkens us back to something, and it makes us realize that God is behind it all. He's the life, the real one in charge. And even if it's Satan, Jesus said, I prayed for you. You see, I mean, I've got you if you let me have you. If you let me, then you will get through, and you will be better for it, and others will be better for it, because you'll now know how to help others. And Job is saying, look, he's seeing through just mere good and evil. He's
and there's a building taking place too that God does in regards to our lives in the midst of all of this opposition and stuff. Like you're saying, if it comes on again, you know how to look past all of that.
Yeah.
But not only that, you're able to speak in other people's lives to look past those trials and those situations. And
a lot of life is how we see it.
Yeah.
So Job is saying, look, I'm not receiving good from God and then receiving evil from Satan. I'm receiving good and evil from God. I'm seeing all of this is coming from God.
He's using the tool of Satan, the spirit of error, to teach me something through this.
But he doesn't get to operate independent.
Exactly.
That's the key.
Yeah.
So now I just thought of this. Look in Matthew 6. Matthew 6, verse 22, 23, and 24. I think Jesus is dealing with this same thing. Matthew 6, 22 through 24.
The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thy eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon.
So Jesus is saying that our eye is the way we see. If we see two masters, double vision, then we are darkness. But if we have a single eye, then we are seeing God only. We're only seeing the one master, and we're not serving two as though there really are two. There's really only one, ultimately.
Right.
I mean, so he's saying that your whole body will be full of light if your eye is single. Single eye. In other words, you're seeing through. Job saw through.
Yes, that's good.
So he saw through the good and evil to the one God. So what I find interesting is the King James Version, because it says, if your eye is single, your whole body's full of light. But if it's evil, so it makes it sound like single and evil are opposites. It doesn't say if your eye is good.
Right.
It does, so it's saying being double-minded, double vision is evil. seeing that God and Satan are equal powers is evil. That's not true. God is not equal. Satan is not equal. God is God, and Satan is doing what he's doing, but God's still God. So we have to see through whatever it is. We receive good and evil from God. You see, I mean...
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I mean, and that's how you deal with whatever adversity and sifting comes, because what did Peter do? Jesus said, Satan desires to sift you, but I pray that your faith holds up. So Peter, all of a sudden, he denies Jesus, and the rooster crows, and he goes,
that's what he was talking about.
That was the challenge came. Oh my gosh. Has my faith held up?
Yeah.
You know, now he's thinking, am I still believing in Jesus? You know, now that the test is there and the challenge has come. And then later, of course, you see where Jesus restores Peter. Do you love me? Do you love me? You know, but it's restoring the 3 times he denied it. I mean, it's...
That's it. That's what's taking place.
It's amazing. So Jesus is like, I pray that your faith holds up. But then you read 1st and 2nd Peter, and it's full of encouragement to the brothers.
Yeah.
Because he's turned around and he's now strengthening the brother. I mean, so you see this all the way through. Satan's got a role to play. I remember I heard a guy one time say that Satan is still God's Satan. The devil is still God's devil. And he, in the grander, bigger picture of things, he is doing the job he's been given to do. Now, I don't know if I ever shared this with you or not, but I saw something one time, I think it was on television. This woman was being trained to be a shepherd.
Okay.
It was so great, and this will make sense in a minute, but there was a pen, P-E-N, not a P-I-N, a pen. I don't know what part of the country you're watching this in. A pen. So a pen... And she was inside this pen. There was 6, 8, 10, whatever it was, sheep, and there was a sheepdog. And she was standing here. The sheep were all here, and they were all shoulder to shoulder, huddled up, facing her. And the dog was on the other side, the back side of the sheep. She was being trained how to use the dog to herd the sheep.
I see what you're saying. That's good.
Now, so what was happening was from our viewpoint, watching this all unfold, we could see that the shepherd, the sheep, and the pen and the dog were all in this one thing. From the shepherd's viewpoint, them are his sheep, but the shepherd also owned the dog. Now, the dog's job was to keep the sheep all back together, focused on the shepherd.
I see what you're saying.
So the shepherd was communicating to the dog how to herd or get the sheep's mind back on the shepherd. So what was happening was, the shepherd was in charge of the whole scene. The sheep would start to wander a little bit, and then the dog would come, and the sheep would get scared that the dog was going to eat them. Well, the whole time the dog wasn't going to eat them, because the shepherd was in charge of the dog too. But the sheep didn't know
that the shepherd was in charge.
So the sheep would get fearful of the dog and turn back to the shepherd.
Yeah.
As soon as he turned back to the shepherd, the dog had done its job, and he would go back.
Yeah. That's good.
Now they're back in the fold. All of them were facing the shepherd as one body.
That's good.
I mean, it blew my mind. I thought, it is.
You know, it's funny you should bring it up. There's a friend of mine. He has a dog, and I said if I ever owned a dog, this would be the dog I would have. It's called a blue heeler.
Yeah.
Beautiful dog.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, beautiful. Well, his dog, man, I didn't like his dog. Okay,
we're trying to herd you.
It really was.
Yeah.
What it does is it bites at your feet.
Yeah.
To make you do what it wants you to do.
There you go.
And so I was like, he was helping me with my car, but he had his dog with him, and his dog was just kind of. He looked fine, you know, but as soon as I would move, he'd start snapping at my feet.
Back in line.
And I'm like fearful. And he finally had to get the dog and put him in the truck. But when you're talking that picture, I'm seeing that picture take place of that dog, and they're being fearful of what's being happening, and they're looking to him. As in my case, I was looking to him like,
get your dog.
Dude, get your dog.
And
stuff. And that picture is perfect, man.
Yeah.
We turn back to the shepherd, and it's like.
And then we're safe, and we're focused again, and we see who's really in charge.
Yes.
And that's what Job was telling his wife. Should we not receive evil too? We get everything that comes to us comes from God. If we see it that way, And then another one was Joseph back in Genesis. At the end of Genesis, oh my gosh, here's another one. Genesis chapter 50, I think, is the last chapter. Yeah, Genesis 50. Quick recap of this story. Joseph was chosen by God to be in a position to take care of his family. And his family was going to bow down to him. That's what his dream told him.
Yep.
And his family didn't like that. No one thought it was disrespectful. Well, fast forward in the story, Joseph is standing in front of his brothers who have come to him for food. They don't know who he is. Joseph reveals himself to his brothers who had mistreated him, and he'd gone through all kinds of grief. And if you know the story, you'll know what I'm talking about. But Joseph reveals himself to his brothers, and his brothers are now trembling. Because Joseph is in a position of power over them, and he could have them all killed. But look what happens here. Genesis 50, verse 19 and 20 and 21. Joseph said to them, "Do not be afraid, for am I in God's place? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring about this present result, to preserve many people alive. So therefore, do not be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones." So he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. So Joseph's main thing he says was to the brothers, meaning really Satan operating through them, really, if you see it. He says, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." It doesn't say God allowed it. God meant it.
Exactly. But I think somebody was saying, I heard somebody say something like, before everything happened with Joseph's brothers and stuff, that this guy said he felt that he was speaking too early.
Yeah.
Like he's being.
Might have kept it to himself.
Yeah. That he was almost prideful.
Yeah.
And stuff, and then God takes him and uses this situation to not only be humble, because he's in a perfect authority where he could be reminded of all that stuff and say, "Oh, now it's my time," but he's in a humble state.
Yeah.
And he's able to see God because he's looking through it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, "I am," because he has literally fulfilled what he was saying, because he said that they were going to bow down.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. But the path he didn't like.
Exactly.
That's how our life is. Though.
Exactly.
We don't like the way it looks and feels. But he gets us where we're going.
Yeah.
I mean, so God means it. So Joseph Joseph saw all the stuff that happened to him was painful and distressing. But in the end, he saw that God meant it for good. So God definitely has a way of turning sin, selfishness, pridefulness, arrogance, all of these things. He has a way of turning it. And it actually becomes something that is good, not just for you, but good for others, which is the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Peter's going to strengthen his brothers. Joseph is going to strengthen
his whole family and a whole community.
Yeah.
All the Israelites and stuff. I mean, wow. That's good.
So,
that's good.
Well, I don't know. I guess we're going to have to try and find a place to wrap this up.
It's been good, though.
Yeah, wow. I think so. And you might think this seems like a strange path, but I think that I like to keep this under the heading of what is man, and we're going to continue. I think we've got a lot more to look at with this, but man is God's dwelling place. That's the plan. But through the fall, the rebellion of Adam, and our agreement with that as individuals, we have agreed with the spirit of error. We have allowed the wrong spirit to operate in us. We have become self-deceived, tricked, and we have become part of the rebellion. So God, in the form of Jesus Christ, another human, has remedied our problem, but it doesn't keep us from the pain and the suffering and the trials. There's a sense that the Bible talks about us co-ruling with Christ. And to be a co-ruler, some things have to be done in us before we're safe to do that. Before God can trust us with that authority again, is the way I kind of,
Well, that's what I'm kind of seeing that you're showing right now.
Yeah.
It is, we're starting to move into the other side of it.
Yeah.
We're starting to see, because all of this produces value. You value. Yeah. I'm sure those the sheep value the shepherd when they have this potential danger that
Yeah.
they think is so bad behind
Yeah.
them, and they turn to the shepherd, and the shepherd's like, "I got you,"
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and
like
that's the
it's
point.
single,
Yeah.
single vision.
Single eye, yeah. And that's it, seeing through. We have to see through. And the cross is an example, a perfect example. It looks like the worst possible scenario that could ever happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in Hebrews, it says that Jesus, for the joy set before him, endured the cross. So he went through the cross. When he finally got it settled, it was his Father's will to go to the cross. Because he didn't want to. Remember, he said, if there's another way.
If there's another way.
But finally, at some point, he said, you know what? If you're not going to budge on this, then here we go. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be another rebel against your plan.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. Satan and sin is crouching, desiring to have Jesus too, all the whole way. But Jesus never caved, so he becomes our hero, and he goes to the cross, and he turns the worst possible scenario into glory.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And
that's the message that Paul is able to share with the body, and I think he's the only one that really talks about the body too, is from that standpoint of the body of Christ, the hope of glory.
Yeah.
And I mean, all of that revelation flows through Paul.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus gave to Paul to give to us. You know?
An eye-opening,
Yeah.
big time. All right, so we thank you so much for watching and joining us, and the plan is to continue on What is Man. I don't know how that's going to take shape next time, but it will take shape somehow. And until then, thank you for watching.
Man, thank you so much. Man, this has been awesome, Louie, man, and wow, that's all I can say.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. The word is awesome. So I hope this helps you get through the next sifting of yours. We've all got them coming, and but Jesus has prayed, and our faith will hold up as long as we keep our eyes on Him. Don't get too distracted by the taunting or the accusation. Just keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. He's the author and finisher of our faith.
Yes.
Until next time, thanks for watching.
Thanks.